Hello and welcome to the Dune Minute Podcast, your place to deep dive minute by minute into the cinematic adaptations of Frank Herbert's world of Dune. I'm one of your hosts, John.
And I'm Zach. The rest of you can leave.
Not our listeners.
Not the listeners.
We need them.
You stay.
We need them. You yelling at my cat then? Which one of them?
Oh, no, they can stay too.
Oh, okay. No, you're talking to the hat man in the corner then. I got you. Today we are talking about minutes 41 through 42, and we are talking about a job interview today.
Yeah.
A very strange job interview.
My first note this week, man, is this is the weirdest interview I've ever seen.
And you've done a lot of interviews. You've hired a lot of people. So.
I've been the interviewer and the interviewee many, many times. This is the weirdest interview. I'm honestly a little bit jealous. If I had Jessica's interview skills, I could have hired all those people that I've hired in my life so much easier.
So much faster.
So much faster. It would have been a 2-minute conversation instead of the 30 or 40 that we normally did. And yeah, it would have been a much easier process.
Just use battle language to communicate with
with
HR in the background while you're.
Yeah. What's your name? Oh, okay, cool. No, you're out of here.
Yeah. So
we get a line of ladies. So the context for this, if you remember from yesterday, is Fufu Hurwat says candidates for a housekeeper, my lady.
Correct.
And we see a line of I guess potential housekeepers. And Jessica starts to go down the line.
As they are candidates for housekeepers. So that would make sense that they are potential housekeepers.
Hey, we love continuity here.
It's a small group of women. I think I don't remember the exact count, but it's less than 10. So there's not a lot of people.
Something like that. Jessica starts to go down the line. She's just eyeballing all of them until she gets to one in particular.
Trying to figure out who to pick first for her basketball team.
Yeah, right. I did get a little bit of PTSD for the kickball team selection.
It's always picked last, man.
I wasn't. But it still wasn't first, but not last.
Well, if you ain't first, you're last. So
she gets to one person in particular and she goes, "What is your name?" And we get the name Shout Out Mapes.
Shout out, shout out.
Shout out, shout out. Yeah, and then she just goes, "All right, everyone else can leave now. I found them. This
Goodbye."
Is it." Which is so strange. I mean, such a weird. How must the other people feel in this moment?
I don't know. Well, I think it's because Shout Out has like some kind of tattoo or marking or whatever between her eyebrows.
Did the other people not have?
The other people didn't.
Oh,
not that I could tell.
Okay.
And you can't really see what that marking is. You can see that she has something going on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no one else did. And I think that's what caught Jessica's eye. She's like, okay, I really want a housekeeper with face tattoos. And look, as someone with a bunch of tattoos myself, I'm not here to shame anyone's tattoos. Unless you have like some fucking racist shit, you can go fuck yourself. Otherwise, live your best life. Get a tattoo between your eyebrows.
Yeah, I don't know what it exactly was that drew Jessica's attention, but yeah, maybe it was that tattoo.
Yeah, probably.
So the rest of the ladies leave, and she starts talking to Shout Out, and she goes, "Shout Out, that's an interesting name. Means well dipper."
It's an old Chicobsa word.
Ah, yes.
Well dipper.
We get the mention of Chicobsa, which is cool.
Yes.
I know I've talked about it on the pod before.
We talked about it when we were talking about Galak.
Yeah.
And how those are the two main languages, Chicobsa being the...
Well, no, it wasn't when we were talking about Galak. It was something to do with the Kwisatz Haderach with... it was somewhere around when Moheim was given the test. I talked about Chicobsa because it's not a common language.
Sure.
But it is probably one of the few that we hear in the movie that aren't, English / Galak.
Yeah. / common / whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Technically, though, it is Galak. And then in Chicobsa, she tells Shout Out, "You're Fremen."
Yeah, you're Fremen. Not a question. Because we like to read our movies, we always keep subtitles on.
Yep.
It was not a question. It was a
statement of fact.
Statement of fact. Yep. Before we get too far away from this, Chicopsa from the encyclopedia is it's an ancient hunting/assassin's language, and it is not something that is unique to Arrakis. The Fremen speak it because just throughout their history, they have come to adopt this form of Chicopsa.
Sure.
But it is not something that originated there. As you learn more about like Seleucus Secundus and the Sardaukar, they have their own form of Chicopsa, and it goes back to I think it gets accredited to a particular group that I didn't write down the name for, but it's kind of like the progenitors of this language.
Sure.
So the Fremen people learned it from them at some point. So it's nothing unique to them, but it is something that is their own like dialect, is very much a Fremen dialect.
It seems in the little bit of research that I've done, we when we were talking about Galak, it's based on a lot of Anglo-Saxon, Germanic languages with a little bit of Scandinavian language influence and Eastern European and Baltic influences. Chicopsa seems to be a lot more influenced by modern languages of, the Middle East and the and Southeast Asian countries.
Sure.
You get little bits of Sanskrit and Hindi here and there, and you get obviously a lot of Arabic influence.
Yes. Yeah.
With Shai Hulud and Lisan al-Gaib and all these other names and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where Herbert pulls a lot of that influence for this language.
Yep.
And we'll see it a lot more as we start meeting more and more Fremen throughout the movie as well.
Yep.
But
this is a good introduction to it.
It is. And we talked about I think in the first episode of the podcast, the language or the speech director for the movie was the same one that worked on Game of Thrones. Worked on the Valyrian and Dothraki languages over there. So the staff that they have for this movie to help with that speech direction and the creation of the languages, incredibly talented people. They know what they're doing.
Oh yeah, it was a good get.
Yeah.
Shout Out looks at Jessica after she tells her that she's
states
Fremen.
That she's Fremen.
Yeah. She looks at her and goes, the ancient tongues?
Yep.
And then Jessica goes, oh, and I love this line. She goes, I know a great many things. And I don't have the actual quote written down, but she continues to say, such that you have a weapon concealed in your bodice.
I know many things. I know that you have a weapon concealed in your bodice, and then we see the guard in the background begin to reach for her sword.
Yep.
And in the Atreides battle language, Jessica signs "not now," and then continues to say to Shout Out, "If you mean to harm me, I must warn you. Whatever you're hiding, it won't be enough." Which is such a badass,
stone cold line.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You can try.
Yeah. I'm going to pause just here for just 2 seconds and kind of give a book reader's perspective. This scene is not in the books. It's not present.
Okay.
The acted scene is not present. The words, however, are.
Go on.
So we don't get an interview process like this. We don't get Jessica, finding Shout Out amongst a line of people or whatever. In the books, Shout Out has already been selected. Leto tells Jessica that, hey, you need to go meet the housekeeper. She specifically requested that she work with you. That's not the exact actual words, but something to that effect.
That's the gist of it.
Yeah. And then when she meets Shout Out, we pretty much get like a line for line reading from the books to the movie, which is cool. I mean, that doesn't happen super often when you get screen adaptations of dense books like this. There's typically some or some form of like condensation or sorry, not condensation, condensing. There's no condensation on Arrakis.
I was going to say, what condensation are you finding?
There's like condensing of characters. There's condensing of lines and passages and whatnot. But the fact that we get a pretty 1-for-1 dialogue scene from the books to the movies, I love it. I love seeing it.
Well, I think it's just because this scene is so important, and the dialogue in here is so important that it's best to not lose any meaning anywhere along the way.
Yeah, so, I agree.
Shout out then, pauses for a moment and is almost, surprised that Jessica has seemingly just discovered this hidden weapon. And
truth be told, I was equally surprised because how the hell did she know?
Sure. There must be some Bene Gesserit tricks or something. Yeah,
something. But there was no indication that we as viewers saw that Shout would be having this like knife in her bodice.
In fairness to Shout, she and all of the other women that were there for the interview are all in the same kind of loose robe dress that we see Fremen in. They're all wearing this white hooded kind of veil thing, but the veil doesn't go over their faces.
Yeah.
It just covers their head.
It's like a linen suit.
Yeah.
Or a linen get-up.
It's definitely like a lighter material because guess what? Arrakis is fucking hot out. So Shout out in the moment, takes a second, looks at Jessica and kind of looks down and is like, look, the weapon is meant as a gift if you are truly the one.
Yeah.
So, first of all, as we've stated many, many times, we read our movies. In the subtitles, the one is capitalized.
Yep. It's important to them.
But any other instance of the one that we've seen up until this point is discussion of the Kwisatz Haderach, which is not the one that Shout is referring to in this point.
I think it is.
She's referring to Jessica as the Kwisatz Haderach?
No. Okay, no. So not Jessica specifically. But I think that the vagueness of the prophecies that they have come to, live and die by, I think they are about the Kwisatz Haderach. But Jessica being the mother is also a huge part of this.
Sure.
So they're using the one as more of a general term.
Okay.
Than the specific person. So if you, or maybe it's you in that sentence that is like the royal you.
So there's no capitalization of you or anything
that's
like that.
True.
So that's why I was like, that seems a little odd. Because you would think that if there's prophecy of the Kwisatz Haderach that the Bene Gesserit are implanting on all these different planets and stuff, they would have been very clear to say that the Kwisatz Haderach is a male.
True.
Because according to the Bene Gesserit, the Kwisatz Haderach is a male.
Yeah. There's also a part of this that we don't get any kind of introduction to in the movies, but there's this concept of the quote unquote great mother, which is part of this prophecy set. So maybe that's what she's referring to in a roundabout way.
That might be the part that we talk about tomorrow, because there is a point where Shout does mention a mother and a son.
Yeah. So more to come on this. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but I know that's a good catch about the one being capitalized.
Yeah. And our minute ends a couple seconds after that, as Shout is very slowly beginning to raise her hands to reveal the knife.
And the music starts to ever so slightly to swell right there at the end. So another clean break between dialogue for us, which is awesome.
Makes it easy because we're not having to nitpick between words. So.
All right, cool. Well, that'll do it for today. We will be back tomorrow talk about
the rest of this conversation.
Yeah, the rest of this conversation. That'll be minutes 42 through 43. And if you'd like to connect with us, we are on good old-fashioned Gmail at duneminute@gmail.com. We are on Twitter, which John is probably going to be monitoring more than I am.
Yep.
At Dune Minute.
Yep.
And then we are on Instagram, which I tend to monitor at the Dune Minute.
You can reach us in any of those places. And we'd love to hear from you. If you have if you feel that we ever missed anything, or, you want to, bring up some additional points. We'd love to hear from you sometime. Otherwise, you'll hear from us tomorrow.
That's right. On the Dune Minute podcast.
Talk to you later.
See you.